It feels like Hollywood is always in some kind of turmoil, right? But what if the big problems it's facing right now are, well, self-inflicted? Today, we're going to unpack an argument that links the weird quiet around a huge new Star Wars movie to a massive billion-dollar gamble that might just be blowing up in the industry's face. So the whole thing kicks off with a look at something that should be a total no-brainer: the big screen return of The Mandalorian and Grogu. I mean, it's been 7 years since we had a Star Wars movie in theaters. This should be a guaranteed hit, right? But the analysis we're digging into here points to some pretty serious warning signs that this movie might be in trouble before it even gets out of the gate. Okay, so what are these warning signs we're talking about? Well, the first one is a really big one, and it's something you can literally see for yourself. There's just a weird lack of buzz online for a movie this massive. And check this out. We're looking at Google search data from early April, and apparently searches for The Mandalorian and Grogu were just 2% of the searches for another blockbuster, the Super Mario Bros. Movie. Now, that's not just a little difference. That's a massive, massive canyon between the two. And for a movie that should be the talk of the town, that is a huge cause for concern. And just to be super clear, this is not normal. In the world of blockbuster movie marketing, a gap that huge is, well, it's a giant red flag. It kind of signals that the built-in audience, the people you'd expect to be hyped for a new Star Wars movie, they just aren't showing up. The interest doesn't seem to be there. And it's not just about what people are searching for online. Think about May the 4th, the biggest day of the year for Star Wars fans. There was hardly any merchandise for this new movie. And what about the film's star, Pedro Pascal? He's been surprisingly quiet, not really hitting that usual promotional tour. When you put it all together, it starts to look like maybe even the studio isn't all that confident about this film. Okay, but here's the real pivot. This isn't just a story about one potentially struggling movie. The argument made here is that what's happening with The Mandalorian and Grogu isn't some isolated incident. Nope. It's actually just the tip of the iceberg, a symptom of a much, much bigger story playing out across all of Hollywood. So what is this bigger story? Well, the core of the argument is this. For years now, Hollywood has basically been playing a high-stakes game, using these giant tax incentive programs from certain states to get their movies and shows made on the cheap. And the poster child for this whole thing? The state of Georgia. For a long, long time, Georgia offered these incredible financial deals, and it blew up. It became one of the hottest places in the world to film, even earning the nickname the Hollywood of the South. So, just how incredible were these deals? We're talking about a staggering number. The claim is that Georgia's taxpayers poured $4 billion into the entertainment industry through these subsidies. Okay, so $4 billion out. But what did Georgia get back? Well, according to this analysis, for every single dollar the state handed over, it only got back about 19 cents in tax revenue. The source basically calls it what it sounds like: free money for the studios. But here's where the whole thing takes a turn. The argument is that when the politics in Georgia started to shift in a way that Hollywood didn't like, studios just started packing up. They began pulling their productions out of the state, essentially walking away from billions of dollars in these subsidies. Now, this move, according to the analysis, wasn't just some symbolic political statement. It had real, severe, and very direct financial consequences that are now being felt across the entire industry. So what happened? Well, productions got moved to places that were way more expensive, like Canada and the UK, and this apparently led to some really wild situations, like building these multi-million-dollar sets for a show like Starfleet Academy, only to tear them right back down. It even got to the point where major studios reportedly couldn't afford to have a big presence at huge events like the Cannes Film Festival anymore. And you can see the impact right here in the numbers. Georgia, which used to be the #1 spot for filming in the entire country, has plummeted down to #4. That's a huge drop, and it really shows how this strategic shift has shaken things up. It really does look like the rug's been pulled out from under the Hollywood of the South. So, where does this all leave us? You've got a Star Wars movie with no buzz, you've got abandoned sets in Canada. The analysis ties all these different threads together to paint a picture of an industry that's in a really, really tough spot. So, the bottom line is this. The argument we've been walking through is that Hollywood's current problems really come down to a choice, a deliberate choice to put political positions ahead of financial common sense. And that, combined with what's seen as a growing gap between Hollywood and mainstream audiences, has created a business model that is, well, just not sustainable.
And that's really the big question this whole analysis leaves you with, isn't it? Are Hollywood's creative choices and its political stances now completely at odds with its own business reality? That's definitely something to chew on. All right, that's it for this explainer. Thanks for joining us.